All right, gentlemen, today we got a special treat. My brother, Jeff Denning. And this is fun. I've actually been really excited about this because he and I, over the last 23 years, we really haven't crossed paths that much. So I've done a ton of stuff. He's done a ton of stuff, been all over the place doing different things. And so I'll let him introduce himself and kind of tell you what his background, what he's been doing. But there's a lot of fun things we're going to explore here and kind of see where this whole conversation goes, but definitely going to cover some personal protection, and as in like carrying weapons and defending your family and people around you, and talking about keeping your mind, body, and spirit in a condition where you are and can be, well, a warrior. Because, well, Jeff, I'll let you lead into that because I know he has been a warrior, is a warrior, and talks to warriors, helps warriors. So like let's get into this whole thing. So give listeners a little bit of background, just a quick highlight on your career.
Well, I'm glad you had me on, Greg. This is like super exciting. By you saying that we haven't crossed paths is because you've been traveling the whole world.
Right. There was, in fact, there was one time period, I think we were out of the country for 7 years. Like I was gone. So yeah. We've just been all over the place. And even right now we're almost on opposite sides of the country. So we're just all over the place, but give us some background on what you've done.
So yeah, let's see. For 25 years carrying a gun for a living. I recently retired from Salt Lake City Police Department. I'm now a mental health therapist, a clinician, a clinical mental health counselor. Finished on my internship doing that aspect. Actually, it's kind of interesting from a mental health perspective. I'm on the Utah State's Critical Incident Stress Management Team Executive Board. We go around and help first responders following critical incidents. And a lot of really bad stuff. I think it's one of the things that's drawn me to mental health is years and years being deliberately pushed into bad, horrible tragedies, things that you couldn't even make up. You can envision them and think about them, but you can't really make them up. Anyway,
hold on, let me jump in there. That most of us don't see, don't know, don't even know about. I mean, most of us live pretty protected lives and good lives. And we'll hear things on the news or hear stories, but to be actually introduced to see, hear, touch, smell, experience like severe things like that, you've experienced yourself, and you've been around soldiers and police officers, first responders, etc., that are into that. And the reason I think you're going into this and you're passionate about it is because it has an impact, right? Those experiences have a profound, what would you say? I would say mental, physical, spiritual, emotional impact for anyone who faces that stuff. It's not like just a normal day. It's something that has to be processed and dealt with, right?
Sure. Yeah. The word trauma is kind of overused, I think, but it's multiple cumulative, complex traumatic events that occur over a person's lifetime when they get into different careers, from a public safety, firefighter, EMS, dispatcher, corrections, law enforcement, police, whatever you're doing, it takes out some of your soul. In fact, one of our cousins was a special victims unit detective for several years. And I told him, I'm like, man, it's too long to do that career when you're looking and you're helping innocent victims, little kids, and looking at child porn all the time. It saps your soul. Or, some of the stuff that I've investigated over the years, you can remember them. Anything that happens to kids, you can remember that stuff. And it can be horrifying. And now,
so it sticks. Yeah, you're right. It starts to stick. And all of us know, I think men especially do this, will replay traumatic situations or scenarios. I caught myself doing it yesterday. Our family got assaulted by a mob, and I was replaying it yesterday, what I would do differently. Sometimes I catch myself daydreaming about going back with heavier weaponry, right? And like making it right. Because we were violated, right? And it was so infuriating, and it brings back the emotion of it, draws it all up again. And what I hear you saying, Jeff, is like the cumulative effect, especially if you've done this as a profession, it adds up. And when, see, most of us, we avoid the darkest things in society. Some people, like you were just talking about, like it's their job to be involved in some of the worst things in society, the worst things that humans can do. And you're right, it has an effect.
Well, here's the thing though, Greg, and I'll give you a little bit more of my background as soon as I say this, but because I think we're getting off onto some awesome stuff. In fact, I think we need to keep doing this. And I think we need to maybe even do some live ones or have people write in some questions and we can answer them. We can have a lot of fun with this. It's a great topic. But one of the things that, you know, just like you said, we ruminate on it, because whether it's one event or multiple events, it's still a traumatic experience. Viktor Frankl in Nazi prison death camp said, in essence, suffering is like the behavior of gas in a gas chamber. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit of gas or a lot of gas, it completely and evenly fills the chamber, and it's poison. So it's not good, whether it's, and it's interesting too, because after I came back from Iraq, I was in so really fast, military active duty, Dallas Police Department, contract with State Department, doing protecting diplomats over in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, Federal Air Marshal undercover, doing some stuff with another government agency. I have a top secret clearance, or I had a top secret clearance with 3 different government agencies. Did a tour to Iraq with the Army Reserves. But you know, I have a SWAT team background. I was a negotiator. My last trainer, firearms instructor, Top Gun winner. That's kind of fun. I've won a lot of Top Gun shooting awards, but the last assignment I had was a detective full-time at Salt Lake City Police Department, teaching or helping those with mental illness in the community. So I've negotiated with a lot of different people. I have a SWAT background. I was a SWAT team leader, sniper, and all that jazz too. But I also was in charge of, for a while, a peer support team helping the first responders. And I go throughout the state and into other states now, and kind of a subject matter expert on helping the helpers. So anyway, that's kind of my thing. And I've written books. Warrior SOS was my first book, where I interviewed a bunch of different people, friends, and from different branches of service, all branches of service except the Coast Guard, because I just didn't know many people from the Coast Guard. Some of them who are law enforcement and did some reserve time, but it's pretty fascinating. So anyway, that's kind of the quick snapshot. Now, you mentioned, Greg, ruminating. When you have a situation that occurs, it's very normal to go back and visit it. What would I have done differently?
Right.
So, but what happens is when your expectations are one way and your expectations aren't met, whether it's you getting attacked, or whether you going through divorce, or whether you being addicted to whatever substances or behaviors that are not healthy, all of a sudden you end up and you say, man, this is not what I expected my life to be. Whether you have a kid that dies, whether you have, there's all kinds of things, and we don't expect life to go in a certain way. I think a lot of young married couples that get married and they think, oh, I'm expecting life to go this way. I was just meeting with somebody yesterday. Same kind of thing. Lots of emotions, lots of tears, because when your expectations are blindsided by something you least expect, it rocks your world. Right. And when your world gets rocked like that, it changes your views on the world. And so a lot of times when tragedy happens, whatever that looks like, all of a sudden it changes your views entirely. And then you can do 2 things. You can either behave negatively or positively. So sometimes when life happens and it hurts really badly, then you want to do some behaviors that might not be helpful. I had a buddy who got shot, and he told me, go ahead, you want to say something?
Well, I was going to ask, but then it compounds, right? So if you have this traumatic experience that kind of catches you off guard, and I love that idea, this misaligned expectations, even when you do things you never expected to do, right? You even do something terrible you didn't think you were capable of doing. That's another reason that you get this trauma. But anything that's offside of expectations. And then what I hear you saying is like, that's unfortunate. It kind of hits you, and then you have this moment of choice, and you can choose to act negatively or positively. Acting negatively then compounds the problem or adds to it, right? So
Yes, it
it
does.
actually can end up, you can add problem on top of problem, even if you're attempting to make it better, or at least assuage the pain or numb yourself or buffer or avoid, right? You're trying to get rid of this hurt. It's hurting so bad, but over the long term, you can end up making things much, much worse.
Oh,
I just want to point out, you're
absolutely.
kind of just articulating this cycle that can end up in a very bad, dark place. It's so hard to get out of. Which, anyways, I just want to add some emphasis to that. Go ahead and you were going to tell a story about a buddy who.
So my buddy got shot, and I remember him telling me he was a teetotaler, right? Didn't drink, and he goes, "Jeff, I can't tell you how badly I just wanted to go get drunk to get rid of the pain."
Yeah.
And
Wait, physical
and
pain or trauma pain?
trauma, emotional. I mean, yeah, there was some physical pain, but
So
it's
yeah,
not
okay.
the physical isn't as much as the mental pain.
Yes, huge. And so alcohol or pornography or drugs or even just sometimes endless entertainment or whatever, it's been called buffering, it's called avoidance, it's called numbing. There's all kinds of names for it. But what we're doing is we're looking for some way to not feel the hurt or the darkness or the pain, or to keep reliving it. And if we're not careful, this is what I hear you saying. If we're not careful about what we choose to do in that moment, one could bring maybe long-term relief. The other one maybe perhaps short-term relief, but long-term negative consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. So for instance, I remember just personal experience when I was in Iraq, there was a time that it's like, okay, I've been running and gunning for several years. I lost buddies before in Iraq and before Iraq when I was doing some contract work. And the cumulative stress was just to a point where it's like, you know what? I feel a little bit numb. And if you get to a point where it's like, well, if I get in a firefight, I'm not going to have a giant reactions to freeze, flight or flight. It's just like, I'm going to respond well because what happens is your sympathetic nervous system is on overdrive, right. But also psychologically it can be like, okay, if I die, I die. If I get wounded, I get wounded. It doesn't matter anymore. So it's a good for a tactical scenario per se, right? For working overseas in a combat zone, it's not healthy. It's not healthy for living. It's not healthy for a normal life, because what happens is you either get so used to the massive adrenaline and the norepinephrine, epinephrine, the cortisol, and all the compounds of what happens under fight or flight, that it overwhelms your psychological and physiological senses. So it gets to a point where it's like, okay, now I don't feel well anymore. And if you don't feel well anymore, you want to feel alive. And in order to feel alive, what you do is dangerous or risky behavior. So I've had friends from military side and law enforcement side that engage in risky behaviors, meaning getting on their vehicle and going 110 miles an hour just to feel alive. And I had a friend, a guy I was over in Iraq with, who died about a week after he got home because of a car accident. And I had another friend, a Navy SEAL, who was skydiving a lot. And, skydiving's fun and it makes you feel alive. He actually died in a skydiving accident after being a master parachute jumper. So who knows? I sometimes wondered if it was suicide. But you do something to feel alive. Getting in fights can help you feel alive, but it's not good. So you're going and engaging. And I got to tell you this, Greg, it was really important. So one of my best buddies, he had a horrible time in Iraq, lots and lots of trauma. He came home, started drinking a lot more, started getting in fights, going to bars a lot, then going to strip clubs. Then he slept with a stripper, ruined his marriage. It's like, gosh, man, that's unfortunate.
There's that negative behavior stacking and stacking. And to back this up psychologically, what's happening is each of us is looking for a vehicle to help us get what we think we want or need. But the vehicles aren't always positive. Sometimes the vehicles that we're using, that action, whatever, well, like some of the things you're mentioning, right, or others, the vehicle you use to try to get what, either to stop feeling what you're feeling or to try to chase something else, the vehicle may not always be in our best interest. So, okay,
Well, wait a minute. It's kind of interesting you say that, because a little bit of pain can help compel us to do something different or better. So
well,
it's
that's the purpose of pain, right? Pain, I say this all the time, where there's pain, there's power. And pain is to get us to move, to act, to change. And so on a very real level, you touch the stove, but the pain is to pull back. If you're just feeling, chronic hurt in your body or something, like, hey, I need to go get this checked out. If you're overweight and out of shape and your body's just hurting, you're like, pain is saying, do something about this. So you make a really important point there. Like, pain is this motivator, but it's, man, what I keep hearing from this conversation is the next step, your next decision, your next action is so critical. Absolutely. Like, what you do after you experience pain, after you experience trauma, after something happens that wasn't expected, that catches you off guard, that knocks you off your feet from whatever direction, what you do next matters so much.
And it's not just one time or one thing, because it could, like I said, if your world changes, it's flipped upside down. Now, what do I do to go forward? How do I keep living? And unfortunately, what happens a lot of times is there becomes hopelessness. Yeah. And when hopelessness starts to envelop us, we can only see darkness. We can't see any light. And trying to get through those dark periods can be a struggle. And like I said, I've negotiated with literally hundreds of people who wanted to kill themselves, and including colleagues, friends, family members, and trying to say, okay, how do I help them? Because you can say, hey, it's going to get better. No, not necessarily. They can't, because they can't see that it's going to get better, and it might not get better. There are some things you could get. There's so many people around us that have emotional amputations that we just don't see, and that's devastating their lives. And so, okay, how do you help them? How do you help us? One, there's a couple different things. I'll give you a couple of different things that are really going to help you. One, you need a passion project. You need to find something, your reason for being alive. What drives you? Dr. Csikszentmihalyi called it the theory of flow, which is find something that you can do that everything else disappears when you're doing it. It's challenging, it's rewarding, you can develop it, it's helpful and healthy. Trying to find your passion is critical, but there's even more important things than that, I'd say.
Hold on, wait. Like, I got to jump in there, because I've been geeking about this one for years. This is true for all of us, gentlemen. Every single one of us must have this piece here. The French called it your raison d'être, right? Your reason for being. The Japanese called it ikigai. It's like, you've got to have something that fills your soul, something that gets you in the zone, something that, the word passion, right? If you take passion, the etymology of it, it means you're willing to sacrifice for it. It's something that lights you up, makes you feel alive. Like, it gets you out of bed. You stay up late, you get up early, like, you think about it, you dream about it. You've got to have something that moves you. And so many of us, whether we've experienced severe trauma or not, if we don't have this thing that lights us up, then there's an emptiness. Some men, maybe you could describe them as hollow. And of course, what Jeff, you were just talking about, is like this hopelessness and helplessness. And so across the board, we all need this reason, this aim, this whatever it is, the thing that's, well, it's got to be positive, of course. Let's put that out there. It has to be positive, uplifting, edifying. It's got to be something good, but they get you in this place where you're like, yeah, I want to do this. I love to do this. I feel great doing it. And it
Well,
can be
part of the
anything. Oh, go ahead.
well, part of the struggles is, and it doesn't matter whether we're feeling badly or not. It's just part of living. If we don't have some reason and purpose to understand, one, our identity, what drives us, who are we, and then our purpose, then we can be steered way off.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I was going to say, but something profound that I didn't.
Okay, what else? So number one, across the board, I think all of us have this thing, that we can get into the zone, something that we live for, that fills us, lights
Okay,
us up.
I know. I remember what I was going to say. So sometimes we fill our lives with the inane or things that don't matter just to help us feel alive. They might not be per se bad, but they're also not healthy. 30 minutes, science have shown that 30 minutes of either social media or some kind of screen time like television, it will actually start to deplete our energy. So we might be doing that, or we might even be binge watching something or engaging in behaviors that aren't energizing or fulfilling. And what we're doing is we're just staying busy.
Yes. Or distracted.
We're distracted, but we're staying busy without driving towards a passion, something that can give us more energy and help and healing. And I say truly, it's healing, because it can edify us and energize us. Yeah. Now, one of the other things, interestingly, in addition to having like a passion project, is to make sure that whatever your core values are, that you align with your core values. Because, I've done therapy with people who, when their value system doesn't line up to their behaviors, it pulls them apart. Oh, yeah. Yep. It wrecks them. And I sometimes, I'm going to say, well, what's your reason for going on? What's your purpose? Why you want to keep living? A buddy of mine, I interviewed him in Warrior SOS. So every chapter in that book is a different person giving their story. And one of my buddies went and kicked a grenade, and he went to kick a grenade, and he yelled out "grenade" to save his buddies, and it blew up. And when they threw him on the helicopter, other guys got on the helicopter, and he remembers people saying, "Don't put me by the dead guy," thinking it was him. And it messed him up. It messed him up badly. And he told me later, he's like, my kids, I thought of my 2 kids. That was my reason for living. So sometimes in therapy, or especially after somebody's thinking about suicide, it's like, write down what's your reason for living. Because if you don't have a reason for living, then that's pretty rough. But whether you're suicidal or not, you need to identify that. That's one of the core things that you should just say, you know what, here's why I want to keep going. Here's why I want to keep fighting. If somebody gets shot, for instance, they could get shot in the arm. I remember a video years ago of a police officer who got shot in the arm, and it was a non-fatal wound. I've had buddies of mine who've gotten shot in the arm and the leg and wherever. In fact, I remember seeing people got shot in the head and they're still walking around. It's surreal. But it doesn't mean you're going to die if you get shot. My friends tell me it burns. Anyway, there's one video, I see a guy, he gets shot, he goes down, he's like, "Tell my wife I love her, this and this and this." And wait, time out. Dude, you're not going to die. So wrap it around your head first and foremost that you're okay. So the psychology of living is crucial. There have been guys who've won the Medal of Honor who've been shot 12 times. Yep. Why do they keep going on? Because they're not going to give up. Yep. But people can die over wounds that are non-fatal.
Yes, exactly.
So exactly. So that mindset is absolutely critical. It's interesting too, yes. Every person that I've talked to that has some massive stress in their life, especially I remember negotiating with one guy for a couple of hours. He hadn't slept in a while. And lots of times it's like, okay, what's the science of sleep? I'm about finished reading another book. I've done a lot of scientific research on sleep too, but I'm reading a book, Why We Sleep. And it's pretty fascinating, the science behind it. And it can cause heart disease, heart attack, stroke, and not just to mention irritation, but it messes your body up if you don't get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And in our Western culture, we simply don't. We don't sleep enough, or we use pills that are actually not scientifically shown or proven to be absolutely beneficial for real sleep.
So there's literal physiological negative effects on the brain and the body, which of course causes irritation, a drop in cognitive function, et cetera, et cetera. It's just your engagement with life and how you feel. You might not realize that how much it's affecting you overall, and you might try to target at something else. But even something like sleep, if you're not sleeping well and consistently well, and then your body's not recovering, your brain's not getting the recovery it needs and the health. And yeah, it's a powerful thing. I want to circle back to what you were saying about values and how when we when our lives are incongruent with our stated values, how you said the same thing. I like to say a lot, like it tears you up inside. And this morning, before we get on, I didn't even anticipate talking about this with you, but I was writing and I was writing how we spend hours, dozens, hundreds of hours every year wasting our precious life doing things that really aren't that high value. And that none of us, this was my train of thinking, because I've done this before. I'll have groups of people, I'll go speak or teach, and I'll be like, hey, let's write down, especially around the beginning of the year, I'm like, write down your highest goals for the year. And they write them down. Write down your highest priorities. What are the things that are most important to you, right? We're really identifying values. And then I'll ask them like how much time they spent in entertainment, social media, or watching TV or TV series or whatever, right? And this one particular group just blew me away. Almost the whole room said they had watched hundreds of hours of TV or movies. Hundreds of hours in a year. I was like, that's so much. And I'm like, honest answer, like, because most people are like, well, how much do you really watch? I'm like, no, I only watch a few movies here and there. I'm like, okay, let's really dial in. Like, how much are you watching? And a lot of them, like, this is pretty consistent now. And it would be really fun to get data from Netflix, because Netflix, I mean, they're talking about people who binge watch. They'll spend the entire weekend binge watching series, right? Seasons. It's crazy, but the numbers are astounding. And so you end up spending hundreds of hours doing things that never showed up on the list of my most important goals, my most important priorities, right? So here's your stated stuff. This is what matters to you, but this is how you're spending your time. And the inconsistency there, the incongruence of not being aligned with your values, it tears you up.
Well, that's one of the core things that will lead to depression, is if you say, well, I should be doing this, but I'm not going to. Now, granted, you need to relax every once in a while, and I'm not fine with that. But I think you point out a really good point. Are we wasting our life? I mean, when are we going to start talking about guns, Greg? I'm just throwing it out there, because really, are we going to watch it on TV, or are we actually going to say, I'm going to be a protector. I'm going to learn how to protect myself and my family, because that's what I do as a man.
Okay. Well, let's go there. Let's go there. Because there's a perfect example of, well, okay. And you stated it so powerfully right there. There's this, and men do this. We all have this drive to be the hero of our own story. But if we're not living as the hero of our own story, we go looking for it and kind of try to find it vicariously, either by watching sports, the sports hero, or, war movies or whatever. We're watching somebody else virtually be the hero. We're always drawn to the hero's journey. And so you make a great point there of like, am I going to go out and really prepare? Am I going to prepare myself to be a leader, to be a warrior, to be like the philosopher, poet, king, right? To have the education and the leadership and the protection. Am I going to do that myself, or am I just going to watch other people do it? Am I going to get this pseudo, what is it? It's like you're getting this cheap substitute for the real thing.
Right. Well, here's the interesting thing about that. Again, just thinking about protection. When we experience something that takes a nanosecond to decide and respond, if we don't have something to fall back on, our training, then we might do the wrong thing at the wrong time, or we might freeze. So what happens is we encounter a situation where a what if situation. And in this what if situation, we categorize in our mind is like a giant vault of data. And we're like, in this situation, I'm going to run through and replay every single thing that I think I should do. And what it does is it goes back to media and it says, okay, in this situation, this is how I need to react. So I've trained hundreds and hundreds of people in tactical scenarios.
And you still do that presently, right?
I do. Yeah. I teach private firearms lessons here and there on the side. Yep. But one of the things that happens is, and we've seen it in newer police officers, where you shoot them with what's an FX gun. It's like a paintball gun, but it's even more realistic. You shoot them with a bullet, they get hit, and they win the Emmy going down. They're like, "Oh, I'm done. I'm going down."
That's
no,
awesome.
Are you kidding me?
The theatrics of it all, because they've seen it so many tens of thousands of times since they were little kids.
That's right. Well, and same with pointing a gun at each other. My wife cannot stand to watch movies with me. And frankly, I don't watch that many movies or TV show, honestly. I do tend to think every once in a while I watch something, but I tend to think it's, I can make better use of my time. But if I see two people in a movie pointing a gun at each other and doing a negotiation, I'm like, stop, this is ridiculous, because action is faster than reaction. Somebody pointing a gun at you can pull the trigger before you can pull the trigger at them. So it's just stupid. I'm like, first off, somebody's pointing a gun at me, then they have the means, the opportunity, and the intent to use death or serious bodily harm to me or somebody else. And guess what? I'm going to do some damage to that. Here's one of the fascinating things, like, how do I wrap my mind around being ultra violent? Because there's three things that are going to help you win: speed, surprise, and violence. And I would say justified violence. You can be violent and it's okay. But if you could say, hey, well, I remember years ago, we were doing some stuff and somebody said, okay, shoot him in the face. And somebody was there and said, hey, well, this wasn't a tactician, obviously, but they're like, you can't say that. What's the difference between shooting somebody in the face and shooting them in the head? Or what's the difference between pushing a button and blowing somebody up with a Hellfire missile versus being up front and up close and using I have a Tonto karambit right here where I just pulled it out and I opened it. And I can stab somebody, I can shoot them. You know, what's eviscerating somebody with this versus shooting them? When you're looking at somebody in the eyes, it's crazy. It would be different to cause them serious bodily injury or harm. But here's the psychology of it is, guess what? I don't want to kill anybody because I'm a moral human being.
Right.
Okay. But it doesn't mean they're going to die if you shoot them. In fact, we don't shoot them in the arms or the legs because they could shoot you back. But even so, I can shoot as many times as I am legally justified to. And some people think, well, that's 2 or 3 times. No, it's not. It's Supreme Court has said if a police officer, but I think it applies to everybody, if a police officer is justified to shoot once, they're justified to shoot multiple times, which is true. Because I could shoot somebody, bang, bang, bang. They can turn around. And I can make the decision to draw and shoot. I draw and shoot, and they're turning around. I could shoot them in the back. And it's not unjustified by me shooting him in the back. It was the time change, action versus reaction. So there's so much we can think about when we think about tactics and the psychology of it. But the psychology, yes, you need to do what's legal. Yes, you need to do what's tactically smart. Psychologically, you need to make up your mind to say, guess what? Okay, I don't want to kill somebody. But I need to stop them.
Yeah, if they cross a line, and each of us needs to decide where the line is. If they cross a line, are you willing to be as violent as necessary? And well, I'm glad you brought this up, because I was literally talking about it with my son yesterday in our Krav Maga class, because the situation came up. And then I had been talking about it with my wife because we heard about these scenarios where good people, because they're good. Good people don't want to be violent. We don't want to do harm to another human being, but it's the avoidance of violence when you genuinely need to be violent that often causes more problems, or at least allows more problems. And so this principle is big for me, because there is a time and a place not only to be violent, but to be more violent than a bad guy, so to speak, right? Where you were just mentioning, like you've got to be, and isn't that ultimately what keeps violence and evil at bay in its whole? It's that there are good, dangerous men and some women who are willing to be violent when violence is the answer.
Absolutely.
Right. And so, okay, let's walk through this, Jeff. How does a good guy psychologically get to a place where he's like, yeah, I could be extremely violent if I needed to be?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, what do we fear? Do we fear that we are going to get hurt, or our family's going to get hurt? We fear that more than hurting someone else. And sometimes that answer could be yes.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting because over the years, World War II, they had circle targets. Then Vietnam came and they had human being realistic targets, right? And then we're moving forward.
And some people are so bothered by that. They don't even want to have paper targets that are silhouette like a human, and they get upset about that. And I understand the psychology of it, but I keep going. I think you're going to get here. Like there's a problem with that fundamentally.
Well, as we've gone through the years, I remember when I was a kid, you had to go rent a VCR and videotapes at the corner store. And while I didn't watch them, I remember some of my friends did. Faces of Death. It was a rated R videos of real things happening, like people getting majorly injured, people jumping off of buildings and dying, and you're seeing their bodies. Well, now you can look at it on YouTube or on the television, and you can see that it's not censored, not in the way that should be. So in our search, and I would say our lust for violence, we've done massive danger and destruction and horrible things to our children and to the rising generation. And even we might be desensitized to what we're seeing. That's not a healthy thing.
Right. But it almost seems counterintuitive to what we're talking about.
It is, but I wanted to mention the paradox.
I know. I'm glad you brought it up, because it seems like, wait a minute, you're saying there are times we need to be violent, really violent, to put a stop to, I'm just going to call it evil, right? But then on the other hand, you're saying, no, we shouldn't expose ourselves to violence. We shouldn't see it. We shouldn't look at it. We should stop this fascination we have with it. That's right. It seems like a contradiction.
It sure does. And I think it's kind of interesting, all my time in military and working in different organizations and different people, a lot of people think that I was a walking paradox. Like, wait a minute, you don't even watch R-rated movies, but you do this job. And part of me, my thing is like, why? I don't need to watch more violence, but the science behind it, and I don't have it in front of me, but the American Psychological Association, everything from child organizations to big organizations that have done thorough research, says that when you introduce more violence in the media, it only takes a few years for the actual society to become more violent.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
So that has happened. And so now we need to say, well, okay, it is what it is. Now, what am I going to do to protect myself from people being more violent? Here's the thing we don't want to do is we don't want to impose our moral code onto somebody else. Greg, just because I wouldn't take my knife and eviscerate you and then cook your bowels over a skewer doesn't mean that somebody else won't. And in 25 years of running and gunning, I have seen some unreal things.
Okay, so some unhuman things. Now, okay. You bring up something, and you even say that out loud, and you're like, "Dude, that is sick. Like, what are you talking about?" And again, it comes back to this point of like, good people. We don't even want to think about those things, and we could never even imagine ourselves doing that. And so we kind of block it out and think maybe other people won't either. And so we get in this place and we surround ourselves with people that are good, right? Where I'm not going to go hang out with that guy. And so I create my whole life in this protected space where like that doesn't happen. And you don't even want to think about it. And only on the worst movies that you're just like, I'm not watching that, does it come up. But okay, this is what's blows me away. The Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn. It's his experience in the Russian gulags, in the Russian prison camps, in the they kind of were wrapping up in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. It was still happening after World War II. So literally, our mom is still alive. It happened in her lifetime. She was a child when these things were happening on this planet. Like, it's crazy. In our parents' generation, that this was happening, and the unbelievable amounts of torture. Horrible. And he outlines it in there. Like, there's no sugarcoating. He details the atrocities that were committed in our own mother's lifetime. So it's naive of us to think that people don't do this. No one would do that. Or to think it couldn't happen to me in my country or my place. Like, and this seems gloomy. Like, I'm optimistic, right? I'm a total optimist. But I also have to realize this stuff can happen and does happen. And hearing you say this, you as a detective, you saw horrendous things, unhuman things in these areas where people aren't afraid to live where you've worked. They live there by the millions.
Well, there'd be people who say, what? Stuff like that happens in Salt Lake City? You have no idea. Exactly. People have no idea what's in their own neighborhoods.
Exactly.
They truly, truly don't comprehend nor understand the evil that exists everywhere. And I think the first thing that comes to my mind is the child predator stuff.
Yep.
I mean, it's all over the place. And, you know, these poor kids. And if any man's doing that now, shame on you. I believe in the capital punishment. And I think there's situations with child predator behavior. I think that should be on the capital punishment list. Let's do this because, like I said, I've investigated stuff. And there's no reforming recidivists because they are recidivists. There's no reforming people who pray after little children. It's disturbing. It's wrong. It's disgusting. They need help. They need to be completely isolated forever or taken out of this life because as soon as you let them go, then they reoffend.
So and that's the reality is that's happening in tragic numbers. Way more than most people think. So, okay, this is actually a good point to transition into how do I become a protector? Ooh, I got to circle back. Hold on. I remember this quote. You said a moment, like what happens in an instance when you need to call things out. Remind me of one of my all-time favorite quotes by Archilochus. He said, "We do not rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training." Mm-hmm. I'm going to repeat that. We do not rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training. And so we've got to train for these scenarios and this drive, this catalyst for training and preparation is knowing full well that there is evil happening all the time, way more than most of us think. And in all sincerity, I hope it doesn't happen to you ever. I hope you don't have to use, listeners, I hope none of you have to use the skills that I hope you acquire, but that doesn't relieve you from, I think, a responsibility, even perhaps a moral obligation to be trained and to know how to protect yourself and your family and the people around you. So let's lead that into jumping in now. How do we prepare to be protectors?
Well, first, I think it's kind of understanding. I remember I have a friend who his son got kidnapped, and then afterwards he got training, and his whole life became, okay, I'm going to train. A lot of that's responsive or reactive in nature. We need to be more proactive in nature, but also there's a psychological component of like, hey, you know what? as much as we get trained, and it can help us and can prepare us and our loved ones to be safe, but it can't take away the pain. So I would say first that psychological aspect has to be involved with whatever our tactical aspect is. So we need to read about it, think about it. Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, who actually gave me some good kudos on my book, Warrior SOS, wrote on killing and on combat. But there's a bunch of other books out there that are just helpful and phenomenal, but it's not just about the books. And in fact, I wrote for guns.com for years and years as a tactical expert, but you can see multiple people online giving this battle over, hey, well, what's better, a 45 or a 9mm? And like, why are you arguing over a minuscule amount of bullet size when in reality, bullet placement is the most important? So if you backed up and said, what should you do first? One is recognize. Two is, I'd say, teach your kids how to be safe online. People are getting lured out all the time by these evil people because of stuff that happens online. Teach them just to be aware of their surroundings. Keep your head on a swivel. Don't put headphones and noise canceling stuff on and then not pay attention to where you are. Understand and start to try to read human behavior.
This is cool. Okay, this is cool. I didn't anticipate you saying that, but you're spot on. Part of a key component of protection is understanding awareness, like self-awareness, situational awareness, learning to recognize fraud, learning to recognize potential threats, even online, right? So I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, we can get weapons and we can learn self-defense and physical stuff, but absolutely we have to train our brains, is what I hear you saying. Train your brain, learn how to think like this, have situational awareness and enough awareness to understand the psychology or human behavior, especially of some kind of predator or bully or potential threat, whether that's online or in person or in a scenario you go down to an event downtown in some big city, or you go out traveling, like is in our case, traveling all over the world. Like you've got to have some awareness of what's going on around you and what potential threats are. I guess what I'm hearing you saying is even before or in tandem with learning the actual skills to protect yourself and others.
Yeah. I think if I had to give you three things, I made up years ago an acronym CPR, tactical CPR. CPR is cardiopulmonary resuscitation. It helps keep you alive, but you can do like a pre-mortem. Actually, let me back up and just say this. The Stoics call it praemetatio malorum. Do a pre-mortem exam. What's the worst thing that can go wrong? And then do backwards planning to try to prevent that worst thing from going wrong.
Exactly.
And that's what I did in SWAT guy, right? Okay, what's the worst thing to go wrong? Okay, how do we mitigate this problem? If I were in charge of a business right now, that's what I'd have regular praemetatio malorum meetings where you brainstorm, what's the worst thing to go wrong? Let's fix this. Let's make sure it doesn't happen. Literally translated, it's premeditation on evil. Now, I don't want to say think about evil all the time, but thinking about it on occasion is important. And saying, okay, look, there is evil out there. It's real. We can't deny that. So how do we stop it? Well, there's three things, this tactical CPRs. One, have a confident attitude. Confident attitude. And that confident attitude will come as you train, as you engage, as you do things, but also you have a confident attitude in who you're with. There's nothing better than having somebody on your six, meaning watching your 6 o'clock position, that can protect you, that will protect you, that will use the right amount of force, that'll even use deadly force to protect you or your buddies. There's nothing better in the world than that. I couldn't trust my wife like that, but I can trust my SWAT buddies like that, right? There's somebody there that I know they're going to make the right decision at the right time to protect me and to do what's good, do what's right, and help save lives. It's a paradox to say, guess what? I'm going to be better trained so I can learn how to take lives, so I can save lives. But it's important. Now,
hold on, wait, let me jump in here on that. I have that same attitude. And for years, I have been preparing and training my children to be able to be on my six, as you say. And my teens are tough, man. They're very tough. And we're going through a training, and then I'm training in this group, the MASTERCLASS and tribe I have. We're actually this weekend, we're doing another training with these guys, and we're doing the medical, advanced combat medical. We're doing self-defense, hand to hand, and we're doing tactical firearms. Right. So you're absolutely right. It's like, have the skills yourself and have people around you that you trust. Right. You create this community, and it gives you this sense of protection and confidence. And again, confidence always follows competence. Confidence always follows competence. So getting those skills and becoming really good at the things that matter will give you that confidence you're talking about.
I like it.
What's the P?
So first, confident attitude. Second, P, predetermined tactics. Meaning, what am I going to do if something happens? I like the analogy of I'm at a shortstop. There's one out, one runner on first base. If the ball comes to me, I need to know before that pitch is made, because that ball is going to come so fast. I need to know before it happens. Am I going to go to second? Or am I going to go to first? Where am I going to go? I need to know that before. So in a tactical scenario, what if all the time? In fact, it happens so frequently to me over the years that I just walk in and I'd see a scenario, I'd see a place of, so a lot of people say, well, what should I do with this? Or what should I do with that? Well, situation plus
I remember going to restaurants with you, and you're like, okay, there's the exits, there's this, right? Thinking through that because you've trained yourself to do it.
Sure. And I'm not going to sit with my back where I can't see anything. That's stupid.
Right.
So I want to have the biggest vision.
But is that paranoid though? So
it's not paranoid.
Let's bring this up.
Some people might say, I'm glad you said that. Somebody called me paranoid once.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're paranoid just because I carry a gun all the time doesn't mean I'm paranoid.
And you said we should think through what ifs, but how are you become a what if? I'm trying to articulate this here. You're a what if scenario preparation kind of guy, but you're not paranoid. You're not a prepper or a survivalist, or you're not going around afraid. You and I do it too. You and I think we do it from different backgrounds, but we've come to a kind of a similar place. I walk through what if scenarios all the time, but it doesn't scare me. I'm not living with anxiety or fear or trepidation. I'm not going around like worrying about it and telling people about it. I'm not freaking out about it, but I do it regularly as part of my own training, a holistic training. So let's talk about that for a second. How do you walk through those what if scenarios without letting it kind of monopolize you and your life and kind of take over?
Well, when it starts to get annoying, then that's a sign that you might need some assistance. So after I came back from Iraq, I've had these things coming into my mind for years and years and years, because back in the 90s is when I was running a gun and some serious tactical stuff. And only in, fast forward 13 years or 12 years, whatever it was, then I went to Iraq, and, I'd walk into a bathroom and I think I'm going to stab this guy, stab that guy, stab that guy. And I'm like, well, that's kind of annoying. Usually I've thought about it, but when it starts to become a burden, that might be some post-traumatic stress that's just built up. And then you're thinking of those things and it's annoying to you. Then it's like, okay, mentally, I need to just get some more help. But tactically, just thinking about it doesn't mean that you're paranoid. You just start thinking about it and it becomes a part of you. And it doesn't mean you're paranoid. Anyway, predetermined tactics is important. And again, a lot of people say, well, what if this and what if that? And they state a certain scenario. And I said, well, it depends. What you're thinking in your mind might be different than me. I need more information, because situation plus location will determine your tactics every time. So it depends. A lot of people say, well, what do you do with this? What do you do with that? It depends. But if you're not thinking, that's one of the things that most people want to know. Well, what do I do with this? What do I do if somebody breaks my house? Well, first off, have a flashlight by your bed if it's at night. But more burglaries happen during the day when you leave than at night. A lot of people say, well, I'll have a gun right by my bed. No, the NRA says have a device that you have to open up or go to, or have it somewhere farther away where you can get to your weapon before, so you can wake up enough so you don't grab a gun, lean over and shoot your kid, because it's happened. In fact, the position or thought to carry a firearm is actually pretty dangerous, because it's not that you're good moral people aren't going to get into actions. What's going to happen is their kids or them might have a mistake with their gun.
Right.
It's more dangerous that way. And we've seen it over the last couple of years, more people buying guns. Well, I told somebody when I trained them the other day, that same thing. I'm like, look, the likelihood of you guys getting in an incident's pretty low. In fact, insanely low. The likelihood of you having a negligent accidental discharge is higher.
Yep.
So learn how to be safe.
Let me emphasize that. You're more likely to have an accident than you are to need the weapon.
Yes.
So if you're going to have weapons in your home, you've got to go all in with preventing accidents.
Yeah, let's talk about that. And let me just tell you the R on the CPR: confident attitude, predetermined tactics, and 3 is rapid response. You need to act well and have a rapid response. But weapons in your home. So with kids, I've trained my kids since they were little. In fact, I've tested them. Grab a gun, empty it, lock open the slide, set it on the stairs, and tell my kid, hey, go upstairs and check this. And they look at it, hey, Dad, a gun. Because I'd say to little kids, don't touch it and get an adult. Yeah. All adults are not competent, though. And so, I have friends outside of law enforcement or military or whatever, and even some in the military maybe, that would say, hey, let me show you a gun.
There are some who carry guns who aren't that skilled in carrying guns.
That's absolutely right. So it's like, no, I don't want to see a gun. Well, let me show you a gun. No, because the first thing they do is break one of the core fundamentals of weapon handling and weapon safety. So the core safety fundamentals are: 1, treat every gun as if it's loaded; 2, never point at anyone or anything you're not willing to kill or destroy; 3, keep your finger straight and off the trigger until you're ready to fire. That includes even pointing at a bad guy. Don't move, but keep your finger straight. And 4, know your target. Have positive identification of your target. Know your target, backstop, and beyond, because bullets will rip through walls. Bullets go through paper. Bullets go through blood, and you have the same blood as I have the same blood. It doesn't matter if you're, special operations guru or whatever. You can die. So just be aware of your target. Don't be afraid. What I tell people when I teach them, I'm like, look, if you see me doing something that doesn't make you comfortable, speak up. If you see somebody else, speak up, because you need to have it only takes one time for somebody to mess up and get hurt. Yep. So have the confidence to not touch the dang trigger and keep the muzzle in a safe direction. I've had people point guns at me at community ranges before, and I'm like, hey, after they muzzle me, then I say, hey, just so you know, you just pointed the gun at me. Oh, it's okay, it wasn't loaded, one guy said. Like, you son of a gun. You had the slide closed. Yeah. First off, so come take a class. I'll teach you. Yep. Or so you can yell at people, and it's okay to be mean. It is okay. That's what I teach my girls. It's okay to be mean. Be mean. Get lost. Go pound sand. It's okay, because ignore people. It's okay at certain times. It'll protect your life. You don't have to be nice to everybody. If you get the wheelies at certain situations, trust your gut.
Yeah, and be fierce. It's another way of protection. Yeah,
locking up your gun. So kids, wait a minute, kids. As far as kids go, I'd say, hey, if you want to touch a gun, just ask me. We'll touch the gun together. But my kids even know. It's like, hey, somebody bought my kids a squirt gun because I don't like them. I'm like, hey, keep your finger off the trigger if you're going to do that. So my kids know. It's like, don't walk around with a gun with your finger on the trigger, because under massive amounts of stress, your fingers can start to pull in. Yep. And then you can have a negligent discharge, and you wouldn't want that.
We recently purchased some airsoft guns that are built very similar to real guns. And we treat that with those 4 universal laws you just said. For those of you listening, the 4 things he went over, the 4 universal laws of firearms. And I have my guys memorize those when they come to trainings and cover them. But so I'm training my children, even with an airsoft gun, to treat it the same way.
That's 100% important.
Repetition.
Yeah. Keep your finger off the trigger. when you're reloading, keep your finger off the trigger. If you're doing major moving, keep your finger off the trigger unless you're ready to shoot, period.
Yep.
Or if you continue to shoot. So
what would you recommend, like for safety of weapons at home? You have weapons in your home. How do you keep them safe?
I say lock them up. There's a bunch of quick access safes you can get.
Do you like codes or fingerprint? I have a fingerprint one I really like.
Well, that's because you're richer than I am. Just kidding. I haven't done the biometric stuff because I didn't want to spend the money, but I have a bunch of other safes. I have some quick access safes, and I have some other safes that take a little bit longer. I think keeping them locked up is important, but if the kids want to see them, they want to see them, then we can let them see them. But here's something more important. It's like,
do you keep it loaded?
I personally do. But here's the thing: when you reach into a safe and grab it, are you having a sympathetic reflex with your trigger finger and go bang?
Yeah.
So I like sticky holsters. Frankly, a sticky holster is my favorite go-to. It's inexpensive and it's very, very effective. Very good inside the waistband holsters for guys. I prefer index.
So hold on. So
hang on. Let me just say.
I gotta say what sticky is because people don't know what sticky is. So it's not a brand. It is a brand. Sticky holster is a brand, but it's also sticky. So in between your waistline and as long as you have like a belt or tighten pants, it'll just stay there when you grab the gun. Great.
And that's what you're saying. Like a pancake style holster. So you need to take the gun. You need to take the holster out when you reholster, and you just need to make sure you don't point at your hand when you're reholstering, and then you take that whole gun and stick it either. And again, I prefer appendix carry or small of the back, meaning just it's to your strong side and just back a little bit. Those are the only two places that I would really say that are the best for a guy, and then carry everywhere in the same place every time, so you know where you're going.
So when I appendix carry, it gets really uncomfortable. If I'm sitting, driving, I'm in a restaurant. So what do you recommend? I recommend a sticky holster, because if you have a Kydex holster, it might be digging at your leg. The other thing is the size of the gun. The thing is, if you're going to carry a gun concealed, smaller is better. The more likelihood you're going to carry it of a smaller, but the smaller the gun, the more difficult it is to shoot accurately. So there's taking those things into account. It's like, okay, but here's the thing: it's pointing at your junk, and that could be uncomfortable. It's also pointing at your femoral artery, which could be uncomfortable. So don't be wiggling the gun around or trying to adjust it and then pulling on that trigger, because that would suck and you'd lose a testicle, or worse, maybe you sever your femoral artery, right? Yeah. So
here's the thing:
I like training.
And again, it depends on your body configuration, but I like that place the very best, because a lot of people aren't looking at my waistline. I actually can protect it very well from that position versus on my back. Like I see these guys open carrying at different places.
They got it sticking out.
Carrying at the back. Guess what? I think like a bad guy. So it's called mirror imaging, right? It's like, okay, I see that guy carrying open carry. Guess what? I'm going to take his gun from it. I'm going to tap the magazine, make sure it's seated. I'm going to rack it, and then it's going to be loaded. Because sometimes they don't carry one in the chamber, but it's like, but even if they did a tap rack, guess what? I'm going to shoot him. I shoot everybody in this whole place. You dummy. Remember, speed, surprise, and violence as action is the most important. I'm not against open carry, but me personally, I would never do it. It raises too many eyebrows, and plus it takes away the element of speed and surprise.
And surprise. You take away the element of surprise. Exactly.
So I think even a more interesting question would be like, okay, what do you want in the house? You want a shotgun? You want an AR? You want a pistol? What do you think? What do you think?
I have all three.
There you go. Game on. That's the quickest one to get to. Some people even say, well, I'm going to get a pump shotgun. Okay, get a pump shotgun. Well, I'm going to pump it and then they'll run away. You're just wasting time. Maybe you'd have one there, or maybe not. It doesn't matter. I mean, the thing is, like, why is somebody busting in your house? First off, are you selling dope? Because if you're selling dope and they're wanting to steal your dope and your money, then they might be coming for something else. But otherwise, a lot of people who break in, they don't have guns, they don't have knives. Some might, some do. But keep your nose clean and you should be okay. That's the thing. It's like, hey, lock your doors, lock things up. Have a camera if you want. It's like just doing some basic things is going to help you,
right?
First and foremost. But what do you want? I don't know.
So
Here's the thing.
there's so much that, yeah, there's so much here and so much we could talk about. Maybe we need to
Maybe we talk
do
about
this,
later. But
do this again later.
yeah.
But I'm going to put you on the spot here and just say, if you could, there's so much. And I know that it's almost a stupid question to ask because there's so much, but if you could pick one skill that you think men should begin with or master,
as far as personal protection goes.
Yeah, just protection, and just being more of a warrior. If you, in all your experience around the globe, in military and government and public, if you could pick one skill that you think, yeah, this one's, because we've all heard the phrase, you don't fear the guy who's practiced 10,000 kicks, you fear the guy who's practiced one kick 10,000 times, because when he lands it, you're toast, right? So if you could pick one skill that would make the biggest difference, what do you think that would be? And I know I'm putting you on the spot. I know it's a hard question.
I tell you, that's a tough one, because you can think about kicks, and I'm like, I have a martial arts background, right? But I'm not going to kick above the waist ever. First off, I'm not going to throw a knife ever. So there's a lot of myths out there. It's like, okay, do I get martial arts? And you could do Krav, that works. You could do, and again, I lived in Israel, so I had a little bit of that. But I also lived in the Orient and had some martial arts training there too. But MMA is really good. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is really good because a lot of fights go to the ground. So fighting and doing that is good. And I'll tell you, I would say probably martial arts, in that anything's going to take a little bit of time to get good at. But the nice thing about martial arts, or rolling in the ground on the mat with somebody, or doing some basic stuff, and again, it depends on what martial arts you're taking. If you're doing karate, kata, it doesn't mean it's going to be beneficial or real. So I'd say MMA or BJJ are probably the go-tos. Krav Maga is also probably be a third. Again, MMA and BJJ is sometimes similar, but it's good for the mind, because it's actually, you're doing something physical.
Yes.
You're and social. So it's good. But guns are good too. So maybe just,
so if you get, but with training. So
well, here's the, let me just back up and say this. A lot of martial artists say, okay, we're going to teach you how to take away a knife. Good luck. Do you really know how to do it? I teach knife fighting classes. All right, come on, let's do it. That's why I carry a knife, because if the other guy has a knife, but guess what? I might get cut. So are they.
Yep.
But you know what? A lot of people say, well, sheesh, right? That's why I bring a knife, or that's why I bring a gun to a knife fight. Okay, Mr. Indiana Jones, he was way far away. I got swinging a big, huge, whatever it was, and then he shoots him. But here's the thing: I'll carry a knife before I carry a gun if I had the option. You know why? Because knives are absolutely lethal. I could kill somebody who has a gun with my knife if I have speed, surprise, and more violence. So if you're not carrying a knife and you're a guy, you need to really look into that. That's what so let me say that.
I got to tell this story. I think we were newly married, and you and I think we were in Dallas.
Not you and I newly married. You and your wife.
My wife and I were newly married, and I think we were in Dallas. We were in a mall, and you said something like, "Let me see your knife." And I'm like, "I don't have a knife." And you looked at me like with just disdain. And you said something like, "You're not a man unless you carry a knife." And
yeah, pretty much.
We went and bought a knife.
I went and bought you a knife. I remember it was a nice knife. And I still something you can open up with one hand. Is that it?
No, this isn't it. Are you kidding me? I've lost so many knives in my wandering around the world, but I always carry a nice knife.
I sent you a really nice Ontario knife. Really long.
Yeah, we have those. We still have those. Those are fantastic.
So here's the thing. So yeah, I remember you had that knife, and you need to be safe with it, because those things are sharp.
Yep. Yeah. In my other podcast, an Extraordinary Family Life podcast, I talked about how I stuck myself, literally severed my radial nerve, had to have it rebuilt and everything. So yeah, learn to be safe. One big takeaway, we'll wrap up with this until another time. Those things that you're talking about, martial arts, knives, guns, those are instruments, they're tools. But what I want to emphasize here, get the training, because it will train your brain. And so you're simultaneously simultaneously training yourself how to think, because if you can't think clearly in any kind of crisis, then having the tools and the weapons, the instruments won't be near as beneficial because you can't think. And so
I think you're
get
absolutely
the
right there.
training around the instrument, even if it's just martial arts and your body is your instrument. Getting the training will train your brain, and that's ultimately where you're going to be the most powerful. Is if you can talk yourself out of a situation, if you can think yourself out of a situation, move yourself out of a situation, learn how to think like a warrior, and you're making yourself and your family and the people around you much safer and better off.
Yeah, I think that's good. And, I love that, Greg. That's beneficial. If you get good sleep, you're going to be able to make better decisions, but you also need
eat good food.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Exercise. Those are really critical for your mind and your body. But also, if you have a perception that something's a threat when it's really not, then that's not
danger.
a good thing.
Exactly. Another danger.
Actually, we definitely need to talk about in the future what happens psychologically in the midst of a critical incident.
And then afterwards, I mean, there's so much more we can
And
cover
the aftermath.
with all that.
Yeah.
Stuff. Okay, great stuff, brother. Thanks for taking the time to be on here with us. Where can people find you? You do actual tactical training that's available. You do mindset counseling, coaching, training to help with the mental aspect of it all. Where can people find you and reach out?
JeffreyDenning.com. And I'm in Utah. I teach at a range here. For the right price, I'd travel and go teach elsewhere. But I have an agreement with a place here in Utah where I do private lessons. And then I usually throw out one or two classes in the summer here and there.
And do you do
as far as the
counseling or
coaching
online? Do you do some of that via like a Zoom or something like that as well?
So at the time of this podcast right now, I just do I do that. Yeah. Okay. So it kind of, yes.
Yeah, various. Okay.
It kind of depends.
Okay.
So, yep.
Sounds good. Fantastic. I'll put that in there, and you can send me over some links or anything, and we'll put them in the show notes. But thanks for being here.
Hey, you're awesome.
Big takeaways here, you guys. Just train your brain, train your body.
Let's do it again. Let's do this again.
Be safe. Be the warrior. Level up. Be the man.
I always say, until next time, continue to hone your skills and keep adding to your tactical toolbox.
Nice. Okay. Thanks, brother.
Yes, yeah.